And we're live.
All right. Okay, I guess I'm in charge here, so we'll just start going through with the discussion a little bit. And that was quite an interesting case study, anyways. Going through a lot of that, I didn't realize what all that takes as far as doing, being part of that whole industry, I guess is what you could call it. But what were some of the pros and cons and great depth of all the candidates? So let's see. Trying to find my. So what do we have? We actually had, technically we had 4 candidates, but then the one gal that was filling in for the guy that had left, correct?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Hold on, let me look again.
Looks like we had David, Gerald, Seth, and Sonia, and then Rena was the one that was filling in.
Right.
For the guy that left. And I have lost my case study somewhere. Must have got closed somewhere on here. Anyways, what were some of the pros and cons of?
They say I think there's 3 candidates: Gerald, David, and Sonia. Right?
And
Seth was the one that he got from that other recruiter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I see my notes now. Yeah, Annetta Armstrong called to set up the meeting with Seth. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the only one that was kind of out there.
Right.
Whatever. So, what were some of your guys' thoughts on all these candidates here that these going through?
So for me, let me open my. So for me, the one that was the most qualified for the job was the last one, Seth Harcum. Just because what I read about him, I feel that he was he was like Peter, like the one that left. They're almost like the same personality, the go-getters and driven, and they were just their mindset was just like kind of the same.
Anybody else have some thoughts on Seth?
I would agree. I like Seth because of his enthusiasm. Of course, their concern was, he'd been with the firm for 15 years. And why swap so fast, right?
Right. Yeah, after you'd been with someone so long, you would think that it would take a little bit longer to...
Maybe, but I guess what I liked about him is that he was loyal to his company for so long, and when he was ready to go, he was ready to go. I don't think that's a bad thing in my eyes as just being part of a school that I do. Like, I've had in staff for 6 years, and that's a big deal. But if they were ready to move on, I'd support them as a company too, as a school district, that they were ready to take a different position somewhere else.
For sure.
And so part of me was like, I think it's nice to see loyal because you're not training someone and wasting your time and money because he's not jumping ship tomorrow morning. There's some really motivated people who, if you look at their resumes, I had one gal I hired, she never stayed longer than a year anywhere. And so if I'm going to put equal money into someone, I'd rather take someone willing to stay 15 years versus someone who stays every year with a new job.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, when I look through resumes and stuff, if you see someone that has a lot of jobs with a lot of short time on it, you question that a little bit more. Why?
What did they not get along with that they have to rotate every year?
Yeah, right. Are they running from everybody or someone's chasing them?
And I'm going to tell you, usually in my experience, I've not ever hired someone who's been in that position who's ever worked out, because their personalities are tough to long-term work with. They might be fun for a couple months or enthusiastic, but as you get them there, you realize they're not a team player long-term.
Right.
So he seemed like he had that team player, and I think his enthusiasm really excited him, and they were just really concerned about the 15-year thing. To me, that's not as negative. Whatever reason he chose, I think that's kind of, you can't know every piece of the puzzle when you hire either.
Right. Right.
I think I would be a little concerned in the sense that he's starting to look right after he was ranked number 2. So now he's actually making a name for himself. So even though he was loyal for a time, but now that he's made a name, he's moving on. So what's he going to do when he gets to this new company? Is he going to just, really get ranked number 2 as a semiconductor analysis and then jump ship? Is he just after the money now? I think that's the reason why they were trying to figure out why he was changing at that time.
Right. I read it different. I read it as, even though you're right on that end, I guess coming from my standpoint, because that's what I do. I do HR and hiring and running that side in my actual job. I see it as that maybe that company didn't give him enough challenges to keep excelling. Because when you hit it, you've hit the top of your bracket in your company and there's nothing left for you to do. What's the next step? I think that's what they would have to have ready for him.
True.
He looks like he needs to excel and he wants to accomplish. So great, he got to this place, he was not happy, there's nowhere else to go. So you need to be able to provide that, or realize that as far as you can take that person in your company. People I think always hit a spot where they're like, well, I've left, there's no more pay raise and there's no more promotion or even like success for me in satisfaction, right? Some people do it for the actual excelling, and some do. I don't go to work for free. And so I don't think people go to work not to have a bit of an increase in their promotions in life either.
Right.
Something that I thought was kind of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead, Jordan.
Something I thought was kind of funny about Seth is that he was contacted through like Anna, a different person, where Craig, the guy that worked for Triple S, like he's been doing it for like 15 years or something like that. Why didn't he know Seth's name? What does Craig know about him that like makes him not want to make him a candidate? Or like, why wasn't he aware that he was that Seth was looking for a new position in the industry?
Right. Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah.
So
not knowing how the whole dynamics of this whole industry works, it's kind of tough to make that call. But
I had to Google the industry myself so I could get a better like kind of grasp on it, because that was what I was lost on too. I was like, well, you know what I mean?
Who in the world makes that kind of money?
If they make $1 million a year, sign me in, please. I was like, wow, But for like Seth, I would say like, he wanted to get higher in RSH because the resources and what they offered. Currently at Jefferson's, rather like, I feel like he couldn't like progress anymore. And what Christy said, just like he didn't have the resources to go ahead and and continue with the growth and everything. So to be honest, I would move on. Like if I'm already been there for 15 years and I don't see growth, like just move on.
Yeah, I see it that way too. Because like my husband owned a business. We've owned a business for 15 years, and he felt like he hit the top of his growth. Even though we were loyal to what we'd done, we sold out and combined to go bigger, right? So that's kind of how I saw it. I think it was an opportunity in a way, not a I'm jumping ship kind of thing. But I could see the other way too, just like you were saying. There is a piece of that puzzle is he one of those ones that need to have the glory only, right? Can he work and get that by being part of the team?
Good point. What did some of you guys think about Sonia?
So I think that's the one I voted for.
She was.
Yeah, she's the one with the kids. So
yes,
I was rooting for her because I thought Seth was a little more arrogant than I liked. Just kind of full of himself. In one paragraph, he talks about himself a little bit, and I felt Sonia had really made a name for herself and was still really humble about it. I mean, here she is working for this small, teeny company out in Connecticut, and yet she's got a really high ranking on the list, even though she's not one of the top 3 or top 4, but she's like on there and right below them all. And the fact that, just carrying on that she does have 2 kids and how she can balance that out, I just had mad props for her. She was one of my person I was voting for.
I concur that she was the one that I liked too. I liked the way that she handled the interview. She went in with very specific questions, making sure that she would be a fit for the company, but by finding out what the company offered, what they had for her, what technology, where they were. I mean, she really came in prepared, and she knew where she wanted to go, and so she did her homework. So I think that's going to show through her work.
And her international experience sounded like she had a lot more, some things to offer.
Right.
Something that I thought about Sonia too is they talked about how the industry goes through like the cycle where it peaks, and then it either goes down or like plateaus, and that's kind of like where the industry is headed right now. Because right now it's in the top of its peak, but here soon it's in a plateau. And where Sonia doesn't know like how much she can make, it might be a safer bet to get someone like her. She'll still be making more than she would be at her smaller firm, but like they won't have to like break the bank by paying her as they go into like this plateau, and then she can work more on like the international aspects of the company and maybe try to get more profit that way or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. So then what's your thoughts about Rena? I mean, she's obviously the lowest paid. As an assistant, you make that kind of money. That wouldn't be a bad deal. But so what was the hang up on her?
I just think everyone doesn't like her. So it'd be hard to
I know, and I didn't really understand that. It didn't go into a lot of detail of why, what her deal was. Everyone, was it upper management or whatever, was like, hurry up and hire someone so we can get rid of Rena. And it's like, she's the one that had she was the assistant to the guy that left. She was filling in for him. Didn't say she wasn't doing a good job, but for some reason.
I think that speaks for itself, though. When you're ready to replace them before you even got candidates, they're not already working, right? I've had some long-term subs that I keep in the building because I have to have them, but it doesn't mean I'm not out looking for a real replacement that fits the building, Or we've always had those difficult personalities that they can work under people, with certain people can handle that person, but they don't work under everyone. There's some gals that I don't mind working under certain teachers, but I would never work with them every day under me because they just aren't a great fit in my building for what I do. But I guess that might be part of the piece. I think she might have fit with the other guy, but she probably isn't a personality that's going to mix with just anybody.
I think
there was clearly something going on there.
Yeah, there was.
I was going to say that it says that she was an introvert, and Peter must have been an extrovert, and really, everybody liked him. He was a star in himself. So you can't replace a star with an introvert. And so as she stepped into his shoes, she probably doesn't have a bubbly personality. She isn't outgoing. She just can't fill his shoes. So they need to put a star in those shoes.
Yeah, I think it's hard. You're exactly right. That introvert thing, because like, I can't have an executive of my school, a director who can't speak in front of people, right? I think that might have been the same aspect. They needed someone who could go do for certain pieces, and as management, you don't want to fill those pieces in they lack. And some things can't be taught. I mean, if people are introvert, 90% of the time, that's the way they're going to stay. You can't go make them be people who want to go chat with the whole world, and that's okay. They just fit in a different element than that extrovert does. So, I mean, that's what you have to think about, I guess. I don't think she was a fit for that piece of the puzzle they're looking for.
Right. Does anybody else have anything on that they wanted to add about anybody else?
See, I know you guys like the one with the two. What was her name again? Sorry, I have to pull her back up.
Sonia.
Sonia. I didn't like her as much for the reason that she wasn't a little more assured of herself. She was a little more humble, but in the humble manner made her feel like she wasn't ready to be confident enough to excel in that position altogether by herself. But that was just my two-piece, because I've had employees like that who, when they're less confident, they have a harder time coming in and managing it by themselves. They're great employees. They're just not full self-independent. So
The only thing that I thought about her as well, and granted, she was extremely prepared, had all these questions she wanted to ask, but it's like, it was almost too many questions of like, okay, what do I have to do so I can be able to do this out here, and not come in every day or do whatever. It was like, I don't know. I like
exactly where
but it was like a little too many, like already assuming that she's already trying to get out of less work or something. I don't know.
I didn't see it as that, but I saw the same. She has so many questions. But my thought was, I've had employees, and I have one like this, that I have to tell them everything, right? So they want an answer to every question, so they feel like they've checked their boxes to get it correct. Sure. I don't want to take the time. Certain people need to be able to fill in the gaps, right? You can give them a guideline, and they got to fill in between. She seemed like she needed everything filled in by you, and I don't know if that's what they were looking for, maybe. I mean, that's the only thing that held me back on her, to be honest with that, was I don't want to fill in. I don't think if I was hiring, I wouldn't want to fill in the gaps all the time.
True.
I mean, one of the reasons why, I think Sonia, that's her name, right? Sonia?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a good fit is because, it says on the on the reading that this job is 24/7. So, I mean, with the kids and just pretty much like the first interview that she has, she's already asking like questions like if she can work from home and stuff like that. I mean, she can be a great fit, but as well, she comes from a small firm, and she can be like scared of a Wall Street firm, or I feel like there's some things that she's lacking for.
I think kids is hard. It's a hard element of anything. I have 4 kids, and I can tell you right now, I have a 24/7 job, and it's tough to carry something like that with 4 kids. And the piece I didn't really get to know of her, which would have made me more confident as an employee, is what her spouse was like. Because I can tell you, my husband has to pick up half the slack to make sure that I can cover my job effectively, right? So, I mean, even though you can't just say that's a piece, it kind of is. You have to know their background to know, even though she has kids, is she going to be able to handle all this? Because that's not I think in some ways that gives you compassion that other people can't have, is when you have kids. But it also gives you a strong responsibility of like, I would have looked at like, how many days off have they had? How many days has she had to call in because of her kids? If she's never called in, like I've had 1 sick day in like 4 years, then that's probably not going to be a deterring factor, right?
Right. That's
kind of important to know. If she's never calling in because of her kids, that shouldn't ever be a reason to hold back. But if you realize they have a poor attendance because they do have kids, that does have to go into the factor then.
Right.
It's not really a discriminate, because you can't discriminate because of children, but you can put the attendance as that's not a discrimination. That can be a policy that you put in when you do hiring.
Yeah.
If my wife was making that much money, I'd be stay-at-home dad.
Oh, that's so funny. My husband was just telling me, he's like, can you just double your income and I will do the laundry all day long? I'm like, sure you will, I still don't quite believe it. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm like, really? Are you going to hire a maid? Because I don't think you're going to do it.
Come on, have faith in us.
I don't think my husband can. It's not his skill. I saw him try laundry 2 weeks ago, and I came back, and my oldest had my littlest kid's clothes. I'm like, he's a second grader, and that's a freshman. Do you?
That's funny.
I gave up.
I'm great at doing laundry. It's folding it and putting it away that I'm not very good at.
We're trying the hamper method at our house this month. Yep. We're washing and drying and shoving it in hampers, and you better figure it out from there.
I've never heard of that method.
I'm telling you, I have 4 boys, and they are crazy amount of sports. And I told my boys, I said, You guys keep your laundry separate. I will wash and dry it separate so you don't have to sort it, but it gets in the hamper and it's all yours. And if you don't put it away, I don't care. Put it in your closet and shut the door.
That's a brilliant idea. We're going to change to that. Maybe we'll find out whose clothes it really is that's clogging up everything.
You will. You'll find out some kids double their laundry by throwing it on their floor, but yeah.
That's too funny. All right. So who would we hire?
I would still hire Seth, I think.
Yeah, we'll go for Seth.
Quick question. So on our case study, we're supposed to have 4 cited sources outside of the document, correct? I got dinged for that one of the first times.
You got dinged. I actually realized I only put 3 on my last one, so I'm going to get dinged on my second one too.
Me too. So that was one of my things I was going to put for Sonia's evidence, is that having kids shouldn't be a factor. So I was going to try to find some evidence that there's.
Yeah, there is evidence in it. Look it up on the equal rights of job hiring. They can't discriminate. It's a discrimination if you say we're not hiring due to kids. Look it up on your equal rights, because I have a handbook. Every state has one. The Fair Acts of like employment. You legally you'd be sued. They'd win a lot of money if you didn't hire them due to children. So
don't use that as your reason for.
Don't use it, but you can definitely say the reason why we can't discriminate against your children. But you could bring up other reasons if you wanted or didn't want her, right? Like I brought up the reason to look into her attendance record, right? Like that would be an issue that was an unknown component.
Right.
Good point. All right. So
has anyone got their second case study back? Anyone?
No, I was just looking at it.
But you realize they extended the deadline a whole week. Did anyone actually take that extra week that they gave us that I didn't know we had?
I
didn't know about it.
On the last one?
Yeah.
I was done with it already, fortunately. That's what
I kind of was annoyed about when she extends these. She extended it after the deadline. So why did you extend it? Because everyone had to have it turned in.
I know. I like Tuesday.
But she extended this one too, right?
Till tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Oh, is that when it is? Oh crap! Sounds like I'm working late.
I haven't wrote mine either, but I saw her extend that one because she sent an email, but she's never sent an email before, really. And the other one was only due on Tuesday. So
yeah, I did it on Tuesday, and then she said like extended for like a whole week, and I was like,
I was kind of frustrated because that means my next case study's not back before we get to turn this one in. I'd love to have feedback.
Oh, right. So
I got feedback today. Yeah.
You what?
I got feedback from the last one.
I got feedback from the first one, and I did well, but I just would love to know. I know they're going to at least in my experience in every case study class I've taken for my business, they've got tougher with case study grading them.
No, I got feedback from the second one.
Oh, you did that? You already got graded on the second one?
Yeah.
Oh. I have not got graded on my second one, I don't think.
Was that lesson 5?
Yes, lesson 5. It was lesson 2, lesson 5, and lesson 6.
Yeah.
Well, lesson 6 is this one. I haven't turned my 6 in yet, of course. I haven't seen my feedback for I didn't think I had. I'm going to check. I'm curious because I'm like, I didn't see feedback, but I know they grade different, but yeah, I don't have my feedback yet for mine.
I need to get better on my case studies.
8 o'clock tomorrow it's due?
No, I thought it was 8 a.m.
8 a.m.? Okay.
Let me look.
I thought it said 9, but
I was planning.
Oh, you're right. It's 9 a.m. in the morning, which is a bizarre time in general, so we're all clear.
So is that mountain time?
Yeah, mountain time. 9 mountain time tomorrow morning.
I have to finish it tonight.
Yeah, more or less. An all-night project. Has anyone wrote theirs?
I've got half mine done.
Oh,
No
good.
way.
I'm so good. I haven't even started. It's going to get
I haven't even
a little
read the
later.
instructions.
Yeah. I figured I don't have work tomorrow, but at my house I can work from home tomorrow. So I thought, well, if I have a late night, I have a late night.
Yeah,
And my
right.
husband's out of town, so it doesn't matter.
There you go.
So we need to write like 3 things that we like. What is Wesley said about it?
You need
3
to have
courses.
4 cited
4
sources.
outside courses. Is that your guys? Has anyone been docked for anything besides that so far?
No.
Me neither. I was just curious what else they're picking apart. I got docked for having 3 out of 4 the first one, I think. And honestly, I didn't even know I had to do any. So I must not have read it at all. I just cited because I was citing.
I didn't either. I didn't cite anything, and then my wife heard us talking about it, and she's like, "Well, duh, you're in college, idiot. You're supposed to cite everything."
I know, but not every one of my courses have required you to actually cite it. You could read, do it, and say it from the case study. So this is the first one's requiring citing right off of it. So
I guess we've been warned.
We have been warned, and and she's not grading them, just so you guys know.
Yeah, so
her intern is, doing it, which I don't love because they're a lot more work. In every class I've had one of those, they're a ton more critical than your teacher would be.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. I'm so glad you got yours back. I want to know what my case study was for this one.
I think you'll get it back tonight. Because mine just came like a couple minutes ago.
Oh, maybe we'll get it tonight then.
Risk assessment.
All right. So who read the recruitment of a star? Is that the one that I was thinking of? Well, that's what it's.
The article.
The
recruitment of the star is the case study. Which one are you looking for?
The risky business of hiring a star?
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking, but now it's the salary information. Yeah, that we're all blown away by the salary anyways. So
it's insane.
I couldn't believe that that's what they're making. I assume that's true. I don't know, but
I Googled it. Some of them were pretty close depending on where they were at, which is kind of crazy.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Area. Yeah.
But anyway, so based on that, would that change anybody's mind? Or I think we're kind of in the middle of the road where that, you're not really overpaying anybody. But we don't know what they were paying the guy that left though either.
We don't. That's what I didn't like. Like, why can't I know? Because to me that's what I do again. And so I take what we were paying and I line out their risk of why we want them, what we don't want, and what we're going to end up paying them, because that's a factor.
Right. Well,
I think that's a big piece.
You already have that in the budget, so it's like
Well, you have it in the budget, but also what if they're not really that much better than the next candidate and paying them double? I don't think it's worth it. So
right, exactly. That's my only hang up on there is we didn't know. All we have is Rena's, and no one likes Rena anyway. So I bet that he was making at least
700,000.
I was gonna say, at least more than twice that, but anyways.
It's a little scary, guys.
So he left so he can make $1.5 million.
Lovely. I need some of that money. Let me know who's making that.
That's nuts. All right. Oh, and then after looking at that, would you change your mind? I think we're in the middle of the road. I think we're fine.
I wouldn't change my mind.
Should Steven give Rena a permanent offer or hire outside the company? Obviously.
Well, I thought it was kind of messed up that he didn't approach her in the beginning.
I think it's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Because here she is, she's taking over, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, we're gonna find a replacement. It's not gonna be you, and we'll see you later." It's like, well, maybe you should have interviewed her just to find out where she sits, and
I think you should have interviewed her.
Should have put her in with all the candidates for sure.
I think you just said, oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I think he just said, you have to do the work that Peter was doing but that isn't gonna be your position. So just keep doing it. You know, pretty much. It's like,
Mhm.
Yeah, that was messed up.
so I mean, maybe she could change or to get her the chance.
I don't know if she could change her personality of that sort, but I do think that she had every right to apply equal and to be heard out.
Yep.
You know, I'm not saying that she might have. I probably wouldn't have selected her just from what we know, but she had every right to apply, and they needed to open it up. And I think that one piece you have to put, at least in my profession, we always give an internal event interview already one up over the next because they're already in my company.
Yeah.
Right, they're already part of my school district. They've already been loyal and they've stayed. And the one thing she does have going for that I think that was being taken for granted is she stayed and she took care of the job that she shouldn't be taking care of the way they did it. I mean, they didn't give her a whole lot of benefit to being in that position.
I might have missed it, but never in the reading did I see that it said she wanted to have his job.
No, they didn't say that per se.
Yeah, all what it
No,
said-
but on the where it shows when it talks about a brief conversation with Rena Shea,
yeah.
and it's like the conversation, and she's having a conversation with herself almost. It looks like, and then she's like, "Listen, there's something you need to know," and then she's thinking, "Oh, here it comes. He's hired somebody," and so it was like it just kind of goes on there.
Yeah, that part you're right. I didn't even remember that part. I think it was almost a shock. Like he had gone and done it, pulled the trigger without really talking to her at all.
But again, it seems like that somewhere that he had almost, well, if I can't find anybody, then we'll make you permanent. But
I thought I saw something like that.
Yeah, it's at the end of that conversation.
is it?
I also think if you're not going to use her because she did work with the candidate everyone loved, I've done this before, even though I can't put them in that position. They're not a fit. I've interviewed them. I offer them out to be part of the hiring committee, and I find them another position in the company they do fit in.
Right. No, that's
Right.
good. That's very good point.
I would use her because she knew what this other guy had, and she worked with him well. So why not let her be part of that group to look at the new candidates?
Right. No, that's a good point. And she should have been in part of the pool of people to be interviewed anyways.
She really should have. And I think you really shouldn't even have pulled external in until after you interview your internal candidate.
Right. Which
Usually,
if you read that other article, The Risky Business of Hiring Stars, it talks about that a little bit too.
yeah, in every business or company I've worked for, and especially in school districts, you always open it up internal. Interview all your internal candidates. If you feel like they're not a fit, you give them the respect to answer them back before you open it external.
Yeah.
At least we have. And then we open it up, find them a spot in the position we're going to keep them in.
Right. Because everybody within the company, you want them to want something more and
You
to
do.
grow into stuff. If you don't ever give them the chance, then they're going to be like, screw you, I'm leaving.
Well, and on top of that, they may not be a fit for the position they applied for, but they may keep applying and find another position they were a great fit for 2 years down the road.
Right.
I've had teachers apply for a spot that there's not a fit for, but then an upper grade position came up, and that's where they are amazing at. They shouldn't teach first grade. They can teach 6th grade,
Sure.
you know? And so that's where I think that kind of in general, even in banking, there's a fit for every person. And so they almost like hamper the company by shutting her down without even giving her an interview. So
I think she may be resentful in the end. Here she is covering for this empty position, and then it's going to get taken away from her again, and then get stuck with somebody like Gerald, or Gerald or David.
I couldn't tell if they paid her more. Do you guys remember reading that anywhere?
I didn't see that.
I don't
See,
think
for me, when I put someone in a position, even though I'm paying them, I compensate them because they are taking on extra duties, even short term. We give them, it's like a bonus while they're covering those duties until we hire. You're getting compensated so they don't feel like they're shafted, because it isn't fair, I don't think, to ask her to take on someone else's job, pay her the same, and not even give her an interview.
Yeah.
right.
It does say here that he examined how much money Peter generated for the firm, and then he created a plan and he split the team. It's the second paragraph. So it sounds like he did give her some compensation to keep her there. It doesn't say how much. It doesn't say.
Yeah.
But it does say that it looks like he offered her a little bit to keep her. But they don't want to lose her, because if they bring somebody in, right now she's up to, they're doing that whole power chip, and the deal's coming soon, and she knows all of it. So
she knows the ins and the outs, because she may not be the external speaker, but she probably knows everything behind the scenes.
Exactly. They need to make her happy for whoever they do bring in to work with her.
Well, that's again why I think she should have been part of the interview process. If we're looking at it that way as a team, would you want that gal to be able to work with your new hire? I would say yes, 100%.
Yep, I agree.
So then I need her there to pick out a candidate, because I know she's an asset to my team, and I need her to work with this new employee really quite a bit.
I'm surprised they didn't have her in the interview process.
Yeah.
So I was reading that second paragraph, and it says Steven promoted Rena to senior analyst. So he promoted her into that position, and she's called a senior analyst. So then to take that away from her?
That's interesting. I forgot reading that. Yeah, that's interesting, because that is kind of a demotion.
Yeah.
Are they going to keep her paid the same to qualify to work with this new guy? Because if I were her, I'd be like, I'm walking away then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Damn, it's that part.
Interesting.
Well, they also said the company was very team oriented, and that they all kind of worked together and shared ideas. And to bring somebody new in, I think would be riskier than these people have been working together and making it work. I don't know. I remember reading Good to Great, and I swear that was one of the things that sometimes it's better to hire within the company than to try to bring someone in to change things up. And usually
almost every business book talks about internal over external, because it's a risk factor. It's an unknown. We know she's an introvert, right? We can work with that if we know it. I have no idea what I'm bringing to the table when I hire a new person, right? I only know what their paper says. They can have a great skill of writing whatever they want on a piece of paper, or they underestimated what they are too. So it's kind of hard to know.
Well, is she an introvert because she's a junior analyst? So that wasn't her place? Maybe she just kind of stayed in the back and let Peter run the show? I don't know.
It didn't seem like that to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't say. It just says that she was something of an introvert and had a difficult time fitting in with coworkers and often kept her distance from them. That's all it says.
The fitting in is probably the problem.
Yep.
All right. Then ask again, should Stephen have talked with the recruiter to ask about Seth? I mean, yeah, he should have probably got some more information about Seth prior to speaking with him, but
yeah, probably.
Another funny thing about him too was, like, at the interview, he pulls out that packet of all, like, the good reviews that he has, and he's like, "Check this out, I'm awesome."
You know what? It's super funny looking, but it's weird as that is, in education, that's the norm. You bring in your review. You do. You bring in all your reviews. My review goes to the state of Idaho and travels with me. It doesn't matter what school I'm with. So if I get a terrible person that reviews me, it travels with me for the rest of my career in education. So I don't know. I guess I saw that as a positive that he was willing to show his reviews, because they're not always positive, right?
Right. Sure. And see, when I saw it, I thought, like, he pulled all his best reviews and threw it in a packet, like, why is he going to take bad ones to a job interview,
That's true. I can see that. But yeah, in education, you bring all your reviews, as funny as that is.
Interesting. does the performance at one firm guarantee high performance at another firm?
Absolutely not.
Depends on who you're working with. But I guess that's a good reason to bring the reviews with you, right? It's to say, hey.
It's your clientele.
Right.
That was my only hang up with Seth, is like he'd been with one company so long that I was a little worried. My only worry with him was he going to be able to go to a new company and be as successful? Because he hasn't had to really dive into new clientele kind of thing.
And I thought that was a great asset that Sonia brought, is because she had a lot. You know,
She did.
Lots of, yeah.
She did have that one asset because she did have more experience of being with other companies, which can be critical. It just depends. But I could say I think we've all agreed that those two are your probably top two candidates for this position.
Well, I liked the old guy, even though he was arrogant and full of himself. But if he was, I mean, he's number 2 on the investor report, the institutional investor. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he's no Joe Blow. I think he brings. Sounds like he's going to have to bring part of his own staff. So I think it's risky, but because they said is age a factor, and that was one of the other things I was going to try to research, is age really a factor? When most of the books I've read, most people don't hit their prime until they're like in their 60s and they retire. When I forget what the guy's name at the church was, but he said, "Don't retire. That's the best time you have to teach people and to train people, and that's your prime."
A lot of the books say, yeah, that's your prime. There's it because when you're in your 30s and your 40s, you're just finishing up your family. So after they've left and you're empty nesters, it seems like a lot of the careers will blossom because they have more time to spend on them.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't see his age as a factor whatsoever. I actually saw the younger gal with kids more of an age factor because I just know from experience building my career with kids how hard it is. And it made me actually more worried being a career person with kids, what she's got up against her.
Right.
And wasn't the Gerald, he's the one who fired somebody right in a presentation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the arrogant one.
He's even more arrogant. Yeah.
And knowing that a company has a team culture, if I was the interviewer, I would have just immediately said no, because
I would have been like, "Thank you for your time," and that would have been the end of the interview.
And thank you for being late.
I wouldn't have been I mean, not in a rude way, but I've done that before. When you hit a spot, you know this is never going to go. You don't waste his time or your time. You say, "Thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming in to interview." You don't even tell him you're going to give him a call back, because at that point, you know when you're walking in an interview and they don't say, "Hey, we'll get back to you by this date," that you're not hired.
Yeah. Don't bother calling me back.
Well, if you're interested in someone, I will say, "Hey, I'd like to get back with you. We'll let you know by Monday."
Right.
yeah.
If I don't give them a deadline, you're really not on the top of my queue. So,
And that would have been him.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we need to go over on that? Any other points that we missed or needed to bring up?
Something I thought about the old guy bringing his own crew is if he brings his own junior analyst, and Rena, was that her name? If Rena gets demoted to junior analyst, does she just lose her job at that point? Because there's
I
already.
I wondered.
That's what it sounded like.
Like-
It'd probably be on the chopping block.
Yeah.
That's awful. She's gonna get like fired now.
Yeah. So I thought that was a bummer.
It was a bummer, but it looked like that was pretty common in that industry.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that was interesting. Why did Rena not go with her senior analyst?
Right.
Because
didn't like
they're
her
getting more money, right?
Oh no, it just seems like, yeah, they seem like they did go together. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like lawyers and secretary, because I was just chatting with my brother and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm leaving firms, but I'm taking my secretary." I'm like, "Why?" But I mean, that's the comm. Like, you take your people that you've already built into that position, you know?
It does say here, right after it says engaging a recruiter, it says that he was distressed about Peter's departure, but he was glad he had persuaded Rena to remain at RSH for the time being. So
It seems they were gonna go together, huh?
So she might have been going, which I think would be really wrong of that company to pick somebody then that's going to give her no job.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for staying, and you're done.
Right? It's kind of that's not, that actually for their company, I think would not get them. You can do that once or twice. You burn a bridge, you'll never get employees again.
Yep.
Not qualified ones.
Well, even her coworkers, like, I feel like that would make a big rift where they're so team oriented, but they just like screwed her out of a job. Like, that would make a big rift.
Yeah, it would.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
I haven't read anywhere about having to cite four things. Where are you guys reading that? So I want to make sure I'm doing this right.
Is it in the rubric?
Do you know, it wasn't in the rubrics. Do you remember when she sent out that paperwork about how to get an A?
No.
She sent us, an email came out from our gal that was grading them, not from our instructor, saying how to get an A. And it was massive and kind of intense because I remember rewriting mine for like 3 hours before it was due because of that stupid rubrics.
Well, I haven't got an A, so.
You're mine. Actually,
you know what?
She just sent me the feedback for last week's. I just got it 3 minutes ago. So.
Oh crap!
I got an A on my first one, but I've done these reports before, you know, with different classes.
So we can move together, all of us.
All right. I just found it. Thank you. Wow, it is.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So where'd you find it?
It's on the email from the TA or whatever.
Yeah, the
The
TA's
TA
email,
sent us an email.
OBA13001, if you want to. Like,
And our
search it.
instructor sent us an email afterwards saying, hey, that's why she extended the first deadline, saying, hey, if you haven't had time to look over the rubrics of the TA, please do. This is how I'm going to have it graded.
What's her email?
OBA13001.
I just typed in the search how to get an A, then it pulled it.
And you guys, it's really good because it does have a very, like, I did mine in the exact pattern how they've wanted, and I've done pretty well with it. So I would even put the bullet points in like she has in there. It makes it easier for you to write it. How's that?
I would really love to see, because I didn't follow that with this last one. I got an A on the first, but I'd love to get my feedback.
That's where I don't know what my feedback, because I will say I wrote my second one in like maybe 45 minutes. So I have a feeling it might be different. I ran out of time. So that's where I want to know what my feedback is so I can see where I'm at.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm ready for this course to be done at some point, right, guys? We're almost halfway. I'm pretty excited about that.
Almost. We're getting there.
How's your guys' other classes going?
Not too bad.
Hard.
I have an accounting that's not so fun.
The first one.
Has anyone taken? Have you guys taken a managerial accounting yet?
That one sucked.
What's the number?
Mm-hmm. 202.
I keep
It has
dropping
to be
it.
It has to be proctored. It really stinks.
Yeah,
I
those
think
are awful.
so. Accounting's my minor, and every accounting class I've taken is freaking proctored through Proctoro or whatever. And I hate it.
Oh, that's
I've
awful.
only, because of the business degree, all my accounting have been unproctored besides this. I think this is the only proctored accounting I'll have to take to graduate with my bachelor's.
What about econ?
Yeah.
Econ 150 was Proctorio. That was awful.
Was it proctored?
Yep.
I
What
don't have to
options
take
are doing
econ.
online?
Look
I didn't
real
have
hard.
to-
If you have an option not to, I wouldn't take it.
I didn't take econ. I took something else in its place.
Is there an option not to take econ? Because I don't want to take it.
Yeah, there's something else I can't remember. Meet with your advisor and tell her they'll give you all the options for what courses. Like they highlighted, I have to take this or this, you know. To be
Yeah,
honest, I think the hardest classes are our religion classes because they're such busy work.
Oh my gosh. There's not busy work. If you're doing it right, it's not busy work. I'm like, whatever.
I know. I actually got that backlog. I don't know. I have one religion class left, and someone actually told me that, and I was like, you're a goody two shoe. I don't want to hear it right now. Then I'm glad you wrote that back to me, but it's busy work, my dear.
There's one class that you have to write like a 750 word essay every week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like Doctrine and Covenants or something.
Yeah,
like
it's the class I'm taking right now, D&C, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
I took that one already.
I cite like 4 verses every other paragraph. So
How much more can you write? I know. I think that's really an intense. I had a professor who was very like, there was no opinion. They were very strict. And I was like, wait, that's not true. Yeah. He was a very interesting religion one.
Yeah, I had some that were like very, this is the way you got to do it. And then my last
But I
one.
didn't like it because it was like they almost, I don't know, there's not always a right and wrong answer. I think they have to take in some of how you view it too.
the quizzes that you have to take sometimes, I'm like, who knows, man? Like, and I don't know why that is imperative to my testimony. Like,
actually, I wanted to write that once, but I thought that probably would not get me an A. I was like, well, I don't think I have to know every piece of knowledge to have a testimony, but because it kept saying this is a testimony builder. I was like, no, it's actually not.
right now. Like, no, man, I don't have a testimony. I don't know.
I know it is tough. Do we have anything left on the case study we need to go over?
I don't think so, guys. Oops, that's
What are we? Let me hit. I'm going to stop the broadcast. It should not stop our feed. Hold on.